Great. Well, Mike, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me today and to answer some of our questions about infrastructure. And I guess the first thing I'd like to ask you is, obviously, the next mayor and council are going to have a number of issues that they have to deal with, and there's always a number of competing priorities. I just want to know, just for you as a candidate, where does infrastructure rank for you in terms of something that you want to address if you become mayor?
I think infrastructure is probably my number one priority. I think it's important to have infrastructure that works for our city. It's important for the citizens of our city, and it moves right on to safety, which is another priority of mine. So I think infrastructure would rate number one on my list of to do.
I mean, infrastructure is a broad category. What are some of the specific things that you would want to see improve when it comes to our infrastructure?
We need to fix our streets. Our streets are terrible. We need to new technologies available that we can put to use. We need to have pothole-free summer, springs. We just need to, my main priority is the streets. And, you know, our families drive on these streets, and you drive on the street, and I drive on the street. And it's only fair after we pay taxes that we would be able to drive on safe streets. And we need to fix that infrastructure and get it to par and be competing with every other city that has proper infrastructure.
So if you become mayor, what is the first thing that you would do in this regard in terms of, I mean, the infrastructure deficit, the infrastructure problems, I mean, it's a huge, expensive fix. What is the first thing that you try to tackle?
My first priority would be to tackle the potholes, which are causing major problems, even deaths. So the first thing I would do is invest in this pallet patch that they have out there. And what it does is it temporarily fixes potholes. But when I say temporarily, it fixes the pothole where the pothole won't come back. Obviously, that's not the solution to the streets. The solution to the street is fixing the roads. And my priority would be doing it a different way and doing it the right way. So when we're ripping a road apart to repair that road, I would repair everything underneath that road at the same time. And then I would also add in a proper sidewalk and a proper bike path. So you can have all the infrastructure completed at one time, instead of ripping roads apart and ripping roads apart to go fix pipes that are broken underneath. We need to start looking into the future and smart planning. And I want to have a long-term plan and a long-term vision for the city. And we need a few things with our infrastructure. We need safe roads, we need safe sidewalks, and we definitely need safe bike paths. And I believe that if you do it all at once, it's it's more cost effective, and it works. And the citizens of Winnipeg are going to appreciate that, the freshness of having everything completed at once. And then we have a variety of safety. And safety is the number one concern. And like I say, it's because you and I and our families drive on these roads, and the sidewalks are needed for the elderly folks and the kids that go to school and people who just use them on an everyday basis. So very much a priority.
Mm-hmm. So that's what you would focus on right away. I guess as far as you sort of referenced trying to have a long-term plan, what would that look like? How would you put that together in terms of being able to tackle the problems of the infrastructure over a number of years, looking out into the future?
You know, my long-term plan would be to sit with my new council and work together with them on a plan that we can agree on and a plan that would work for the city. And my plan would be to focus on areas that are the worst or the unsafest in the city, start with those and work our way to the second unsafest, third unsafest, and fix the most problematic areas first. And that would be my plan. My long-term plan would be my vision is to have safe streets, safe sidewalks, bridges, anything to do with infrastructure, bike paths. And my long-term plan and vision would be to put a plan together that would work not only for myself, but for my councillors. And people got to remember, a lot of times you can make all the promises in the world, but as mayor, you only have control over what your council votes for. And we need to have a great, not only a mayor, but a great council on board that has the same vision and plan as I do. And that's what I'm hoping for.
But you're sort of looking at it in terms of like what you would prioritize on the basis of safety first, right?
Safety
that's
first,
the
yes.
lens, as opposed to say, you know, we need to expand this particular street, or we need to.
And, you know, I wouldn't worry about expanding streets right now.
Yeah.
What I would worry about right now is fixing streets, getting back to the basics. Winnipeg needs to get back to the basics, and the basics are fixing the infrastructure that's here. And once we have the infrastructure fixed that's presently here, then we can move on And, it's like being a businessman. If you own a business, you got to take care of the problems that you have now and only expand when you're able to expand. And we have to look at our streets and our city as a business, and we have to run it as a business and make proper decisions, because every decision we make is your tax dollar. And my plan is to work for the taxpayers and be a mayor that works for the city of Winnipeg, it works for you, and makes the right decisions on your behalf.
Well, on that, how specifically would you intend to pay for the infrastructure? I mean, if we're going to be, if your plan is to fix the streets and to be able to invest more and being able to have this, I mean, how will you pay, how specifically will you pay for that?
My plan is to not raise property taxes right now, and I haven't let that out to anyone, but I think the city of Winnipeggers are paying enough in property taxes, and we work hard for our money, and we need time for our families, and we need money to enjoy our lives also. And I think a good plan would be to maybe add, sort of a tax to vehicles, where we can add a little bit more to your vehicle insurance, whether it's cars, trailers, whatever. These are the people that are using our streets, including transit and other vehicles that are on our roads. And that's not going to affect you as much as people that have homes that are struggling to pay their mortgages and feed their families. My priority would be to take care of the roads, and help would be coming from money that's added onto your insurance.
So just so I'm clear, you're saying you would freeze property taxes, but then you would look at having like a vehicle registration fee. I think they used to have that in Toronto, I believe, and other cities.
I think a vehicle registration fee is fair.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of putting tolls up or that type of an idea, I think people are using the streets. They expect safe streets. They expect good infrastructure. And I think it's a good way of doing it. It's the people that are using these streets on a daily basis that would see this happen on their insurance.
Do you have a specific figure in mind?
I would, I'd have to really look at it and see where we're at when I get into the city of Winnipeg, if that's the people's wishes. And once I come up with a plan, we'll figure out what it's going to cost and how much we can raise and how we go about doing it and what we tax.
Right. So there have been some other ideas in the campaign. I mean, another one is, for instance, selling city assets and using them to pay for infrastructure. Is that something you'd be in favor of?
Absolutely not. I believe that the city of Winnipeg needs green space.
Mm-hmm.
It's fair to our families. It's fair to, we just need a green space. It's a place where you can go. It's a place where you can find peace. It's a place where, the wildlife that's around gets to run around. I think we need more green space, more dog parks, more people-friendly places where families can go become families. And again, it's getting back to the basics of life. And I think that's what we need to do is get back to the basics and allow people to enjoy their city. And if we take away all the green space and take away golf clubs and golf courses, what's left for people to do?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are there any other ideas that you have as far as how some of these infrastructure improvements might be financed?
And I have different ideas and different plans, and haven't really put them to work fully in my mind yet. But my number one plan right now has been the vehicles. Is just tax that little bit on your. We pay the lowest supposedly autopack fees or insurance payments in Canada. So I think that the average person who's driving a vehicle is not going to mind paying a little bit more to provide safety in our streets.
One of the other aspects, I guess, in terms of paying for these things is, looking at also trying to stretch that dollar as far as you can. That's allocated already. What steps would you take to maximize some of the infrastructure dollars that are currently, the city obviously spends money fixing the roads every year as part of their capital budget. What would you try to do to make that dollar go further?
We need to fix our roads right the first time. We need to work with the people that do this every day. The Construction Association, sit with them, talk with them, figure out a solid plan, a plan that's going to work for them, it's going to work for us, and it's going to be financially feasible. We can't do what we're doing now. We're ripping roads apart. There's not a long-term plan in place. A perfect example of that is the bike paths that they put together in the city. They're terrible, and bikers are getting killed. People on motorcycles are dying. It's just unsafe and unfair to the city taxpayer not to be able to use the roads and to have to face danger every day of the week. So I think if you work with the people that do this best, I'm a funeral director by nature, and if you want to know something about funerals or embalming or death, I can guide you through that because I do it every day of the week. So when we're talking about roads, I can't pretend I know it all. So I could do my research, but best, I could talk to the people who do it every day, and they need to help us find a solution that's going to be feasible, and using state-of-the-art technology. You know, we're not alone. It's a big world, and people have done the research already, and we need to look at what other people are doing and how it's working in their areas or their cities or towns or villages. And we need to put that to use here and put it to work here. And that saves you money right there by using research that someone else has already provided. Take that and put it into a plan that you have here. Work with the people that are gonna, put it to work, and it's a team effort. And I believe, as the city of Winnipeg, you need to work as a team with people, and you need to go to the people who have the answers. And the Construction Association, for example, would have the answers to construction, and they do it every day, and they can help us find the solutions. And I think by doing, making moves like that, you're building relationships and building communities that will work together. And that's my plan as mayor, is to work with other people and to have a big set of ears and listen to what people have to say, and to try and put together a plan that's going to be feasible, cost efficient, and just work for all of us.
What about with the senior levels of government? Obviously, the federal government and provincial government have a role to play when it comes to financing infrastructure and planning for infrastructure. How would you work with those senior levels of government to try to be able to better plan, manage, and pay for these infrastructure improvements that are needed?
Yeah, great question. And the biggest advantage that you have with a guy like me is I'm not politically connected. Meaning I don't answer to the NDP party, Liberal Party, or PC party. I'm in the middle. I don't stand for any political party. And I think the provincial and federal government's going to like that. And they're going to want to work with somebody who is a freelancer per se, and is looking out for the best interest of the city, not the best interest of that political party. And I think it's going to give me a huge advantage where I can build relationships. And it's about building relationships with the provincial and federal government, and having them work together as a team to build a better Winnipeg, a more vibrant Winnipeg, a city that we're going to be proud of, and the federal and provincial government's going to be proud of at the same time. They want to work with us. But I believe that when you're attached to a party of some sort, there's strings that need to be cut. And I'm coming in as a fresh face. I'm coming in as a businessman with ideas that would help better Winnipeg. And I'm coming in with a vision. I'm coming in with a plan. But most of all, I'm coming in not only to be your mayor, but to be a good listener and to build relationships and teamwork with all kinds of industries to help make Winnipeg better as a team, not just as one person trying.
So building relationships, being part of a team, working with the federal and provincial government in that respect, not having those party ties is the key thing. But then, is there anything else that you would do in terms of trying to be able to leverage money from those levels of government?
Sure, I would.
Some of those sorts of things. Like what specifically would you do in that respect?
I would work hard with the provincial and federal government. Maybe have meetings with them once a month and tell them what our city needs, and ask them what they could do for us. We need to get the provincial and federal government very involved in Winnipeg, and we need to let them know that we need their help, and we appreciate their help, and respectfully, we deserve their help. And I think as a candidate who's not politically connected and looks out for Winnipeg's best interest, we can build strong relationships with these people. And I believe that Winnipeg can become a very vibrant city with the help of the provincial and federal government. We can't do it alone. And sometimes people look at the answers of raising taxes all the time. Well, if we work with the provincial and federal government, they can provide money for us. There's lots of money there. And it's about how you go about asking for it, and putting a solid plan together and showing them that you have a vision for the city. And unfortunately, Winnipeg has not shown that. With our current mayor, they've come up with a rapid transit plan that's not working. And councillors are pulling out of it left and right, and they're changing their minds daily. And if you were the provincial or federal government, how would you look at that? They probably look down at our city and go, oh my God, what are these guys doing? They don't even have a plan, yet they're asking us for money. So I think if you can go there, it's almost like a solid resume. You give them a resume and say, listen, this is my resume, this is what I can do. And that's what we need to do with them, is show them a resume of what we want to do with our city and why we need their help and how their help's going to help us. and what we're gonna do with their money, and best of all, we're gonna have a long-term plan. We're not gonna switch our minds halfway through. And as a businessman, you know that you can't do that. You know, when you make a decision, you gotta stand by that decision, and you gotta work with that decision, and you have to have a plan around that decision, and you just can't jump back and forth, because you'll go broke.
Winnipeg's obviously part of a broader region too, and we're surrounded by a number of municipalities. And as part of that, I mean, there are sort of, you know, not just city infrastructure needs, but regional infrastructure needs where kind of you have one kind of tying into the other. What would you do to improve that aspect of it in terms of being able to, you know, have better regional, better planned, better financed regional infrastructure that serves the whole capital region of Manitoba?
And that's another good question, and it's something that we're not doing. But we need to work together with the communities that surround Winnipeg, even as far as Brandon. You know, we need to work together with them. We can work together with them in many ways. You know, we could do a share equipment program. You know, when there's a huge storm in Brandon and need equipment, why don't you call on Winnipeg, and we'll help you. And when we need help, we can call them to help us. When we have frozen pipes and we need equipment, why are we buying equipment when we can borrow from each other? It's about building relationships. And when you run a business, you know, I build relationships with other funeral homes. So when I need something, we can count on each other. And it saves you money, because you don't have to go buy new equipment. You can count on your competitor or your fellow you know, business friend and say, look, I need help. And the city of Winnipeg needs to do the same, and all the surrounding cities need to work together as a team. I mean, we have equipment all around us, and we have, if you look at the way they're working, let's face it, a lot of people are leaving Winnipeg, and they're building you know, huge areas all around Winnipeg, and the population is liking that. And why? Because they're efficient. They're efficient with their garbage removal, they're efficient with their snow removal, they're efficient with their roads, and people like that. And their taxes are low. So we need to get together with these communities and talk with them and come up with a plan so we can be doing the same thing all around. Equal opportunity and fairness for all our residents and taxpayers in the city. And if we could take the time to spend wisely with our brothers and sisters kind of thing, I think it'll make for a better Winnipeg. There's solutions to all the problems, and there's solutions out there. We just have to look for them and find them and work with people who want a partnership with us. And that's the thing, is building partnerships with people.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of those solutions around regional infrastructure and city infrastructure have been proposed in the Infrastructure Funding Council report. It was released 3 years ago. There's a number of recommendations in there. As mayor, what would you try to do to implement some of those recommendations? What is your perspective on being able to take some of that forward?
My perspective is to look at those plans that they've come forth with and make them work. If we've come together and provided those as a team, there's got to be some efficiency to it. And I think that's what we need to do, is we need to pretend we don't know it all. And we need to sometimes bow down and take other people's ideas and put them to work. And it's important for us to do that. It's important for us as a city. If we want to build our city and be a strong city that's wealthy and a thriving city, we need to work with all levels of government. We need to work with our neighbors, and we need to take the ideas that they put forth and look at them, maybe tweak them a bit, but put them to work.
We've been talking a lot about infrastructure. We've been talking about that. We've been talking about core infrastructure mostly, so streets, roads, pipes. The other piece of that, of course, is the social infrastructure, so recreation facilities, community centers, libraries, some of those kinds of things. Where would you like to see investment happen in terms of you know, that balance between core versus social infrastructure? Like what would it be? You think is a fair balance in terms of investing in some of that social infrastructure side as well, because that's the other kind of piece of the infrastructure deficit.
My true belief would be that we need to fix what's important first, and that's our roads, our sidewalks, and then we can move on to the other part of the infrastructure. I mean, the real infrastructure of this city are the people of Winnipeg. That's the true infrastructure. Without the people, we don't have a city. We need to keep the people happy, and I think my first priority, by keeping the people happy, by fixing our roads and having a safe place for them to be, whether it's school zones, whether it's sidewalks or streets, and community clubs are very important. I'm all about building communities. You know, my parents came here in in 1963 from Greece, and they left that beautiful country, and they came into Winnipeg because Winnipeg provided opportunity. And the opportunity they had was great. So they helped. My dad just passed away 2 years ago, but he helped build the infrastructure of the city, you know, and now it's up to us to take it to that next level. And that's why I'm running for mayor. I want to make a difference and take this infrastructure to the next level. All the older folks and people that have come here and worked so hard and put their blood, sweat, and tears into our city, we just can't let it go away. We need to build on it. And building communities is so important, which means we need to build community clubs. And I'd like to see community clubs for all different ethnic backgrounds, where they can go and have a place to hang out and a place to talk with each other and be with each other. And building community clubs does more than just put communities together. It helps take kids off the streets. It'll help with our gang problems. It's a solution to many problems. And community clubs, in my opinion, need to do more than just be community clubs. You know, they need to be an example to our city of how to get kids off the streets, how to add more programs, how to work with the community and build stronger communities and have more events happening. So it's just not about building community clubs. It's about building communities. And I would say that I would put quite a bit of money into building communities and community clubs once we fix the problem that we have now. And we have a problem.
Core infrastructure.
Core infrastructure is our problem. We need to deal with the core infrastructure first. Once we've dealt with the core infrastructure, we can move on to other infrastructure. And, you know, it's like a puzzle. You need to put it together piece by piece, and then you have a perfect puzzle. And that's my plan. Starting in the middle of the puzzle and working your way out. And by the middle, meaning we need to get to the core of our city too, the inner city. Work there and build our way out. And of course that involves community clubs. And I mean, you could talk about downtown, having a community center downtown too, would attract people. And what we need to do in the city is attract people. We need to make it a city that's vibrant, where you see people walking in the streets and people feel safe. And that's my plan, is to have that vision of a city that's a busy city, a city that's booming, a city where the construction industry is busy. Everything's booming in the city, and we want to bring people here. We don't want people to leave. And my plan as mayor, and if you look at my platform, it's all about building an efficient city and an efficient way of doing it, and a way of keeping the younger generation in our city. Whether it's working in construction, whether it's working, you know, as a police officer, we need to work hard to keep our true infrastructure here, our citizens. And there's many people coming from other countries now, and you know, Winnipeg is getting to be a bigger and bigger city, and probably soon to reach you know, 1 million in population. And we need to be smart in how we do things, and we need to be careful on how we do things, because we can head into the other direction and it could be a disaster. So that's what I mean about smart planning.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about that.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
Do I talk too much?
No.
No,
Just
you
if
know,
there's anything I didn't touch on.
yeah, no, I just think the bottom line is talking about it again. I'm a guy who wants to be mayor for a special reason. It's not because I need the money. It's because I want to build a better city for your children and my children and their children. And I want to have a vision, I want to have a plan, and I want to put it together. And I want to be a mayor who gets out there. When there's a problem, I don't want to be sitting in the mayor's chair and, hey, Tom, we have a problem. I want to go down there and see what the problem is. And I want to find a solution to that problem, and I want to fix it. And I want all citizens to be treated fairly. Equal opportunity, fair and safe neighborhoods for everyone. We need to take down the invisible walls in the city. And there's invisible walls everywhere. And whether it's racism, whether it's communities that don't get what other communities, it's not fair. We all pay taxes, we all live in a city, and it should be a beautiful city for all of us. We should have parks, we should have recreation, we should have more events. I'm looking forward to becoming mayor, if that's a possibility, to make a huge change to the city. And I want to do it because I want to be known for something. And I don't want to be known for scandals. And one thing that I will not do is get involved in scandals. I want equal opportunity for bidding. I want equal opportunity for all people that live in the city. And that's what I stand for, is fairness. And I think I'm going to bring some good values to the city, values that the city needs. They need a mayor who's going to be a busy mayor. It's not about cutting ribbons. It's about building relationships. I want to be a mayor who has a phone that I answer all the time. Do you have a problem? Call me. Let's talk about it. And I know sometimes it can be overwhelming, but In the funeral business, I have a phone 24 hours a day because death doesn't have a time. So I'm there for the families, and I want to be there for the city. And I don't want to be a long-term mayor. I maybe want to put in 2 terms tops, and I think that's all a mayor should put in. Get that job done, have a plan, have a vision, and at the end of it all, be known for something. And, infrastructure goes a long way. We also haven't really talked about, the buses and, that kind of a system. It's going to require lots of work. Again, we need a long-term plan for that. And if we're going to keep our younger generation in the city, we've got to come up with a plan that's going to want them to stay here. And buses are not the answer. I think we need to go with a light rail system or a monorail system, something that's going to work in Winnipeg, because Winnipeg seems to have been put together without a plan. There's businesses that don't belong where other businesses belong, and it doesn't allow people to flow the way they should flow. So we need to look at that too. We need to change the way the city operates. And my final thought would be that I will be a mayor that will build many, many relationships and many, many partners to build a stronger Winnipeg, knowing that we can't do it by ourselves, but we can do it with the help of you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for doing this. I really
All right,
appreciate
no
it.
problem at all.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me here.